Learn to create the life you deserve and desire with my 12-week wellness program, How to Be Fit, Happy, and Healthy. In this program, you'll discover your vision and why for living your best life, how to create the mindset needed for better health, healthy eating habits, proper exercise using the slow, easy method to burn fat, as well as skills, tools, and strategies for being fit, happy, and healthy. The program is now 50% off for a very limited time. Click on the link in the show notes to learn more. Join us today for an enlightening episode as we shine a compassionate light on the often overlooked topic of men's mental health. Through compelling stories and real life experiences, my guest today, Sugar Rose, men's mental health advocate, will help us explore the unique challenges faced by men and the transformative power of vulnerability, resilience, and self care. A must listen to episode for anyone, but especially for women and the man in your life seeking to understand and support the importance of men's mental health.
All right, welcome again, everyone, to another episode of the Be Well, Be Safe, Be Happy, Eat Ice Cream podcast. I'm so blessed and fortunate to do this podcast, but to have absolutely, I say this every time, wonderful, amazing guests. And I'm pinching myself because I've got another one again today. So, Sugar, welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for being here.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. It's a very humbling experience to have been asked to come on the show.
Well, no, it's truly my honor when we get into a little bit of your story and particularly what I want to talk about today, men's mental health. Like I was mentioning when we were talking about it off camera, I seem to have this knack of picking these guests, like something like intuitively comes over me. And I just came across one of your videos that said men's mental health. I'm like, I got to get her on the show. And so I'm not sure how I did it, but I found your email and I wrote you and you replied. I was like, wow, she replied. Because not everybody replies. Um, but I did want to have you here today because men's mental health. You're obviously very passionate about that. You've become an
Yeah,
advocate for men's mental health. And that is something near and dear to my heart too, not just being a man, but because I think it's an often overlooked topic in our society and our culture today. So if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit, how did you become a men's mental health advocate? Let's start there.
absolutely. Honestly, I think it really started when I was younger.
Okay.
Uh, just kind of growing up. I grew up adopted. I grew up, being with a father that was in the military, and they say in the first 7 years of your life is when it makes or breaks who you're going to be as you grow older. And for me, I felt very left alone, very abandoned. My mom and dad split when I was 3 because my dad had decided that he would have rather had a boy instead of a girl. And unfortunately, they got me. So from a very young age, I felt like I was never enough. I felt like I was not loved, I was not appreciated. And then growing up and getting older, my mom remarried when I was 7 to a psychologist. And he was, just an incredible person. I've always been an only child. So growing up with a psychologist for a father taught me a lot along the way. It taught me communication at a very young age. It taught me respect and understanding, and it taught me to look at life differently. Now, when I was younger, I did look at life differently because I thought I knew it all. I lived in a bubble of teenagehood, and
I think
that's
we
that's
all
how it
did
was,
that one.
you know.
Yeah, I think we all did. Yeah, I think you're the same
Yeah,
there with all of us.
yes, and growing up through elementary school and things like that, I was teased. I was made fun of. I was not the popular kid in class. I was the one that was left last to be picked in the Hannibal courts that nobody wanted, And so coming from that at a very young age, but also having parents that I was very fortunate that loved me very much. Being able to communicate and talk about that and discuss that, people hurt, and people hurt for reasons. They don't hurt just because They feel like they want to hurt. They've gone through something. They've experienced something. They've been neglected. They've been taught to be tough. They've been taught at a very young age that you suck it up, you deal with it, you don't cry, you handle it. You're a man, you're a boy, whatever it is, you're a person. You don't deal with problems. You just shove them under the rug because this is how you're supposed to be. This is how I was. This is how you're supposed to be. So growing up with a father as a psychologist to teach me the other side of the spectrum, I think is a huge part of my growing journey. I grew up in group homes. I unfortunately made poor decisions when I was younger that put me in situations where my parents felt I needed more assistance. And so growing up in that environment in itself is also very, very tough because there's a lot of mean people. There's a lot of people that would be hurtful and make fun of me or, whatever it might be. And I was always able, man or female or male, I was always able to look at them to say, you know what? You're hurting for another reason. And I know you don't mean this towards me. And even though you may bully me, even though you may hurt me, you may tease me, you may beat me up, whatever it might be, I know that there's something inside you that's hurting. And from a very young age, I was able to see that. And, as I grew up and got older, I unfortunately, I have lived a lot of life. I have gone through different stages of relationships with domestic violence, with verbal, mental, physical abuse. Unfortunately, because, I got to a point where I was always able to say, well, if they wanted me, if they say they love me, if they say I'm enough, then, then no matter what they do, then they still want me. They still love me. And at a very young age, now I really work on pushing that towards others to say that that's not love. I've always been a very compassionate person. I've always been someone that looks at the glass as half full no matter what, that, maybe you're hurting me because you were hurt. Maybe you're doing this because you were hurt. And when I was younger, I didn't realize until I had to grow and learn and experience and grow through my pain to find, that beauty in my struggle. I had to go through all that to know my self-worth and to know what I was worth and what I wasn't, what I didn't deserve. So, it comes from a lot of pain, a lot of experience, a lot of growth. But, I feel like everything we go through in life is for a reason. We're here for a reason. We're here for a bigger purpose, a bigger mission. And, we have to go through pain in order to grow. We have to go through struggles. We have to go through being on our knees in order to be able to stand back up taller and be able to say, you know what? I'm not going to let someone else feel this pain. I'm not going to let someone else feel like they're not enough, that they're not loved, that they're not appreciated. So just kind of a small synopsis there. And then I married an Army veteran, and we were together for quite some time. And that is really where I found my calling to truly, truly know in my heart and soul that this is where I'm supposed to be. And this is my mission and my purpose. And, it was something that we had an incredible relationship, but he wore a mask, and he wore a mask that nobody knew. And that is where it opened my eyes truly to what our military goes through, what our veterans go through, what our men and women go through. That, when you wear a mask and you're smiling and you're laughing all the time and you're the happiest person in the room, that person is struggling the most. And me personally, being on the outside looking in at that is really truly where I found my passion. I became a family readiness leader for the National Guard for many years for soldiers and their families. And I watched my husband at the time go through a bottle of whiskey a night, but he was so happy. And he was everything was great. There was never any issues. And, we'd talk about the concern of the drinking and such, but on top of that, it was like, he was happy. So I wanted him to be happy. And if that made him happy, then that was okay with me. And, in time.
Can I ask real quick, Sugar, was he a combat veteran?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. He had been deployed 3 different times, twice to Iraq, once to Afghanistan.
Okay.
So he's lost a lot of brothers.
Yeah.
He's witnessed things that, are unspoken of.
Yeah, for
And
me as a civilian would have absolutely no idea about. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you
And
for thank you and thank him. Yeah, thank you. Plus, can I jump in real quick? There's something you did.
sure,
I want to jump back
sure.
and ask. You mentioned about you saw a different side from your dad that was a psychologist. You said he taught you the other side of the spectrum. What is that other side of the spectrum?
My dad has always been understanding. So if this person, let's say that they're angry and they beat somebody up because they're mad and they want to hurt somebody. Why do they want to hurt somebody? Why are they angry?
Because
What is it inside them that's hurting so bad that's causing them to act out in this way?
mm,
And it's taken me many years to open my eyes to this, to realize that all the stuff he taught me when I was younger, even though I hated it and I thought that he was lame and I thought I knew everything, he really knew.
you
He
know,
knew. And
dad actually knew what he was talking about from one dad to another. I think your dad. We do know what we're talking about sometimes.
yeah, yeah. And now I use it in helping people, and I guess that's one thing that, whether it's strength or weakness, I'm able to look at someone and know, okay, I know you're hurting and I know that you don't mean what you're saying right now, and I do agree that people have free will to do what they want. They have free will to be angry. They have free will to be violent. They have free will to, make their decisions. And not everyone should be forgiven, definitely. And because there's just certain things in this world that are not okay. But the people that are hurting and angry, that lash out or, do something dumb or whatever it may be, why? What is it that's going on inside of you that's making you do this? Are you bottling it all up and you just exploded? Are you, have you been in a situation where you don't have the support system that you need? Are you, what is it inside of you that's causing you to act this way?
And that's a great question because that's what men do.
Mm-hmm.
We bottle things up and then we explode. That's quite a common trait because for men, again, focusing on men's mental health for today, we
Mm-hmm.
don't know how to positively or proactively deal with or release what's bottled up inside, I guess. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so many men that I have talked to over the years that have come to me due to, maybe it's a message I put out or a video I do or whatever it might be. Men in general have come to me and said, I don't want to let it out because I don't want to be judged. I
Yes.
don't want to let it out because no one else needs to deal with my baloney. I don't want to let it out because, if I do, then it might open up a whole nother can of worms to all this other stuff that I locked away years ago, so men have a stigma because in society, it has been put out there that it is not okay to speak up. It
Yes,
is not
yes, that's true.
okay
Yes.
to open your mouth and say, I'm struggling. And that's what I try to do with like everything that I've done is that say, as a woman coming from a man, coming from a woman to a man, I am saying, listen, I hear you. I'm a woman. I hear you. And I want to let you know that you are not alone and that you don't have to struggle by yourself and that it's okay to open up. And, there's always going to be hateful people in the world, angry people in the world, people that want to say things about the comments, about saying it's okay to open up. And unfortunately, that's just the way our world is. We have people they're just angry and not nice.
I
But,
really want
so
to.
many more.
Yeah, let me just jump on that point because that is
Sure.
so key because it took me a long time to understand what you just said. For a man, it's okay to open up. We don't have to be this tough machismo, whatever, no feelings, no emotions, because in the
Mhm.
long run, that doesn't work. It doesn't work for even like me if you're single or if you are in a relationship, married or whatever. So men, if you're listening, and then I want to follow up with you, what do we want the spouses or the women to understand? But for the men listening right now, it is okay to open up and be vulnerable. Please hear that
Absolutely.
message. Please hear that. It is okay to open up and be vulnerable. And
Yes.
having said that, then Sugar, being married to a combat military veteran, how can women embrace and help support a man to open up? How can they provide an environment where the man does feel safe opening up and that he knows it is okay to open up?
Honestly, I think one of the biggest keys is consistency,
Okay.
communication, letting him know that beyond the shadow of a doubt, you love him, you care about his well being, you know he's struggling, you know he's going through a hard time, but be there. Be there to say, look, I know right now you're not ready to talk, and that's okay. But I'm going to tell you each and every day that I am standing right here beside you and I am listening to you. Coming at a man in a way where you're attacking
Right.
or you're belittling or you're yelling at him or what's wrong with you, why the hell can't you get your life right, you're screwing up everything. Those are words of anger, and they're words of disdain, and they're going to push someone farther into bottling things up. And I think it's so important, and this is something that I really really push for our women, is that it's so important no matter what relationship you're in, you treat others the way you want to be treated. If that person talked to you the way you talk to him, would you be okay with it? Would you be okay being yelled at, screamed at, disrespected? And this is where I get a lot of slack from women when I do these videos, because I'm standing up for men. I'm standing up for men's mental health. And a lot of people say, well, us women have gone through so much domestic violence, abuse, sexual, mental, physical. And I stand up and say, you know what? I've been one of those women. I've been abused. I've been verbally, mentally, physically abused. I have been dropped to my knees. I have been at a point where I thought I was going to lose my life. But that doesn't mean that every man is that way. And what people need to realize is that men's domestic violence is such a huge problem. And people sweep it under the rug because and I love us women. I do, and I support domestic violence awareness 1,000%. But when it comes to it, where is his shelter? Where is the place where he goes to get respite? Where does he go to be able to start over if he's in an abusive relationship, or a verbal, mental, physical abusive relationship? Because women do that same exact thing. His vice is in an alcohol bottle, or it's in a pill bottle, or it's running away, bottling it up, doing something else. And that is just how people get broken down. So that's in a nutshell.
Yeah, I know someone, I don't know him that well actually in my life, and I know his wife, and just through coaching and training and things like that. And he's a military veteran also. He's a combat veteran. He did, and I don't remember exactly, I think 2 tours in Iraq and one in Afghanistan, but I don't remember exactly. But some of what we're talking about, I've noticed in him, and I just his wife and I have just very casually talked about it once. And again, it's something I want men to understand. For men, it takes a lot of courage to, pick up a gun and go to combat. It undoubtedly does. There's a lot of courage involved, a lot of bravery involved. How can we get men, and again, I keep thinking about him, to realize that it takes probably an equal amount of courage or bravery, if not more, to open up and be vulnerable, and it's okay. I want the men to start realizing, because I had to go through this myself too. I went through a divorce, and I've made some therapists pretty rich in my life. But I want men to take away from this, and especially for the spouses listening or the women listening, that hey, you're a man. Yes, it takes bravery and courage to go to war, but we need to fight another battle now. This is the battle, as you said, going on inside of you. There's a reason why you're lashing out. There's a reason why you're drinking. There's a reason why you're, God forbid, domestic violence. There's a reason why. Let's have the courage and bravery to deal with that battle. Okay, you did the one on the battlefield. That was the external one. Let's do the internal one. Now, how can we get men to that place where they, first, that they know that there's that battle going on, that they need to deal with it, and that they can conquer and overcome it? Any man listening right now, you can absolutely kick butt on that battle going on inside of you, just like you did if you're a combat veteran, that you did on the actual battlefield. So how can we do this to men to get them to be aware that there's a battle inside of them going on, that we need to deal with this battle? It's okay to have that battle, and it's okay to open up.
I mean, I think honestly, this is where I came up with my motto of one family, one mission, one fight. And it's, one family, we are in this together. We all bleed red. One mission is to save each other. And one fight, war wasn't fought alone on the battlefield, and it's not going to be fought alone now. And war, mental health, PTSD is a war. It's a war with inside your heart, your soul, your mind. And one thing I really, really try to do is I do videos to say that spread awareness, and I was in a podcast for a while with just an incredible veteran. His name is Sean Laurie, and we had the podcast called Transformational Mindset. And he wrote a book called Veteran Mindset 2.0, which is amazing. And it's not just for veterans, it's for anyone that's suffering and struggling and that is ready to have a reset. And it talks about the different methods of how do you start over? How do you reset? How do you, with everything that's been so wired in your soul and knotted up from childhood to now, whether you went through trauma as a child or you went through just certain ways of acting and handling things as a child, or whether you dealt with traumatic situations in your life that are now affecting who you are as a person now, how do you deal with that? And that's one thing that I bought the book and I read it and we started talking about it. And the podcast was just incredible because literally I'm not licensed. I didn't go to school for this. This is something that God has put on my heart and my soul to be my purpose, to make a difference in the lives of others. And we literally try to give the tools to help people start over, to help people be able to know that they're the author of their story, even though you don't want to rewrite the beginning, because that's what made you who you are today, through that strength and through those hard times and through being on your knees and through being broken and hurting and being angry is what made you who you are today, the strong person, the warrior, the one that is gonna keep going. And so for me, I really just push out there that, listen, it's okay to struggle. It's okay that you don't understand it right now. I promise you have a purpose. You have a reason for being here. We all do. And, sometimes it takes somebody else to open your eyes to that. And, I've always been a firm believer that we are always somebody, whether it's across the state or across the street or across the world. There's somebody that relates to your story. They relate to what you're going through. They relate to your struggles, and they're alone and they don't know where to reach out. They don't know who to talk to. They don't know who to turn to. And so I always encourage people that are ready to tell their testimony, tell their story, because if anything, even though you've gone through hell, even though you've gone through trauma, you can save somebody else from going through the same thing, or you can be there to let them know that they don't have to go through it by themselves. We even talked about the possibility of how incredible would it be if workshops or some sort of training could be incorporated into the military while they're at basic, while they're active duty, not when they get out, not after they've gone through the trauma and they've gone through the hell and they're dealing with their demons, but in the middle of it, when they're young and they're saying, I'm invincible, I can do this. There's no, because it does affect everybody. It affects everybody differently, but it does affect everybody. And how incredible would that be to incorporate those types of trainings before it's too late, to let people know that you're not struggling by yourself. And even just men in general that aren't necessarily military or veterans, to have a program to say, look, I understand you've had trauma as a child, or you've gone through this traumatic experience, but look, let's teach you the steps to be able to heal and to find your purpose and to move forward and to not have to hold on to all the hell that you went through.
Yeah. We're quickly running out of time, but there's a couple more things I want to dive into with you while I have you here, and these are so critical. And you probably undoubtedly, being married to a military spouse, know about Mission 22. 22, uh,
Mhm.
and I don't know if they're all combat veterans, but 22 veterans a day committing suicide. This is a project I was involved with for, gosh, several months, years ago, and just for me,
Yeah.
I unfortunately lost touch with it. How can we as a civilian society, or just as a society in general, support our military veterans, combat veterans who are dealing with this, and to decrease this rate of suicide? And I don't know if it's still 22 veterans a day committing suicide or what, but what can we as a civilian population, or just in general, do to support our military veterans dealing with this?
Honestly, I think being aware, a lot of people don't know what 22 is. A lot of people don't understand that our veterans suffer with PTSD and mental health issues, and they don't understand what that is. And me, before not being a military wife, I didn't understand it. I learned it on an entire new spectrum, an entire new level once I became a military wife. Um, I think so, and unfortunately, the 22 is higher now
It's
than it was
higher
before.
now.
It is higher, yes,
This
and
was years ago that I worked with Mission 22 to raise awareness and fundraising,
yeah,
probably 6, 7 years ago, and it's higher now. Wow.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think honestly, just for people that don't understand, educating them, whether it be through a video, whether it be through speaking or traveling and talking. That's what I do, is I travel and I speak, and I incorporate, my message and my music into all of that to try to spread awareness on TikTok, speaking, traveling. Um, but I think it's so important to know why why are we going through this? Why are we seeing so much hurt and anger and just loss in this world? And I wish I could say, just everybody, open your eyes to what's around you, because there's so much pain, there's so much hurt. There's also a lot of hope, there's also a lot of healing out there, but you have to allow it into your life. You have to allow that light and that positivity. And so that's really what I fight to do, is to bring that light and love and that positivity to people that may not necessarily understand, or to people that are hurting and feeling broken. But the biggest thing I could say is that try to learn to understand what they're going through. Read up on it, educate yourself, go to some events and see. It's unfortunate. I'm actually, I volunteered to be a part of a funeral today for a veteran. He's a Vietnam veteran, so he's a little bit older, but he is alone. He was left alone. And there's a community that's putting on a funeral for him today, and I've volunteered to go speak and sing at it. And reason being is because I want to let everybody know that they're not alone. No matter who you are, no matter what you're going through, you're not alone, and you don't have to do it by yourself. And, I think just being a part of the community, being a part of what's going on around you in your city, in your town, get involved, because
Yeah.
it takes just one person to make a difference. Because
And
one becomes two and three and four.
That's very true, very true. And on that note, you mentioned you are not alone. So if there's a man out there struggling, or even a woman struggling with men's mental health issues, and you're someone they
Yes.
could reach out to, how can they get in touch with you?
Um, Definitely through TikTok. I get messages on there. My website, you can actually reach me out directly on my email as well. We definitely also have a Discord that I know some people that are involved in as well, that we are a community that helps people. So if there's someone out there that's truly struggling and really needing someone to talk to, not sure where to turn, we can definitely get you connected. We have people all over the states that we can definitely get you connected with.
And you probably have other resources that you know about. So if somebody calls you from, like, I don't know, North Dakota or Washington or California, you
Yes.
can say, hey, there's this number you can call, or something.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We will find somebody for you to talk to. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And for those listening, yeah, I'll definitely put all of Sugar's contact information and websites, social media sites, all of that in the show notes. Sugar, is there a final message you'd like to say that you haven't said already? A take-home message for men or women, or something in general you'd like to add that you haven't had a chance to say yet?
Sure. I honestly think the biggest message that I can give you today is, if you're suffering, you're struggling, you're hurting, you feel alone, you're afraid to talk, you're afraid to let out your emotions, you're bottling it all up, but you're ready to let it go, don't give up. Keep going. Keep pushing forward, because you're not alone. And I promise you that someone out there relates with you. They relate with your story. They relate with what you are going through, and they don't want to give up either. So keep going, keep pushing forward, and know that you are so loved, and that I love you. Even if I don't know you, even if I never meet you, I love you, and you matter, and you have a purpose here. And if you can get through your storm, which you will, you'll get to the sun. And sometimes your sun is in the storm and you have to go through it to find it. But keep your head up and know that you are not alone, and that you matter, and you're enough.
Yeah, I'd like to add to reemphasize what you just said. I love you too. You are loved. If you're listening to this now, you're struggling with mental health, or if you're in a relationship with someone who is struggling with mental health, we're all loved. We love you. We love each other. I love that analogy you just used. You go through the fire, so to speak, to get to your son, or I always say the beach. I like to say you go through the fire to get to the. But you made a good point. I just want to emphasize here as we wrap up that whoever you are, if you're in a relationship or something, and the person is dealing with these internal struggles, it is 1,000% possible. I won't go into all my story, but it is 1,000% possible to slay these demons, to overcome it, and to become a better version of you. It is absolutely possible, and you do not have to do it alone. As Sugar has said many times, reach out to her for help. Contact me through my website. I can get you in touch with Sugar, or whatever. So, Sugar, thank you 1 million times for being here today, for being you, for your story. We didn't get into other parts of your story, which I know was a big, part of your journey. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being the one that persevered and went through your own storms and all of that, and has found the sun, and now is helping others to find their sun. So bless you. And please share this video, especially with our military veterans, because I really want to do this episode today because men's mental health is so important. And as you mentioned at the beginning, Sugar, it does get swept under the carpet too much, too often. Men, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to cry. It's okay to have these emotions. And women, when this happens, please support your man in this situation. No, men, you don't have to always be tough machismo. That's not what it's about. Okay, we
Absolutely.
understand you can pick up a gun and go to combat, and that's had definitely, traumatic experiences on your life. But that doesn't have to be the end. That doesn't have to be the end of the story. There is a sun, there is a rainbow at the end, or a beach, as I like to say. So
And
again,
ice cream.
go ahead. And ice cream. Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, ice cream. So, truly, I always say this at the end of our show, but I really mean it today. If you are listening, please be well, be safe, be happy, and yes, eat some ice cream. There's nothing wrong with a scoop of ice cream, even if you're a health coach like me that goes too far over the edge sometimes with the health side of things. Sugar, it's been a true pleasure and an honor meeting you and having you on the podcast today. And look, we got through the whole thing, no video technical issues.
Yay!
So, thank you again. And again, thank you for listening. Please share this podcast. Please share this podcast. It's so important. And please hit that subscribe button wherever you do listen to podcasts. And again, I just said it, but I'll say it one more time. Until next time, be well, be safe, be happy, eat ice cream. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.